Hello everybody, welcome to the 6th video in this series, roughly the halfway point, and this is the one where we start to bring together all the information we learned earlier. So earlier, of course, we learned about functions, which we have here. We learned about while loops and if statements, and we're using all of those here. And of course, we learned about input and output, and so this is the most complex one we have done so far. So let's go through it nice and thoroughly. So first off, we have two functions of the same name. They're both called charges. And so this is important because it seems like it helps to organize our code, but it also makes our code a little more confusing. So I've done this because it helps to organize, but if you'll notice, one of them takes 4 variables and the other takes 2. So the computer will know which one we want to reference based on what we're passing to it. So we do have to be very careful to pass variables that are an int and 3 doubles if we want to invoke the first charges, and just 2 doubles if we want to invoke the second. So going through this a little quickly, we're asking if they're an inpatient or outpatient. We use this. We've started using this buffer, sin.clear and sin.ignore. And so what that does is, in case you're entering weird characters, because now I'm asking people to enter letters instead of numbers, this just clears out everything that doesn't fit in the string correctly once it's done. So it clears everything up to the /n, the new line character. So if you say inpatient or in, outpatient or out, it'll set this this patient type to the correct value. And then, so if you're an inpatient, it asks how many days you spent in the hospital and what the daily rate was. If you're an outpatient, if any kind of patient, it asks what the medication costs were, and what were the hospital costs. And all of these have input validator loops that really only check for negative numbers, because it's not really a big deal to check for weird decimals and stuff when you accept decimals. And so now going through, now it checks if you're an inpatient or outpatient, and runs this charges function and calls this charges. So you'll notice if it's an inpatient, it calls with days in hospital, which is an int, if you go back, and these 3 doubles. If it's an outpatient, it only calls these 2 doubles. And if you notice, these 2 charges are very simple, just adding functions, but they're convenient. And it returns all the costs. And these strings seem a little weird and cut apart. You don't really need to worry about that. You could just set up all the costs, but I did that because, honestly, when you run it, it just kind of looks better. It just kind of looks better. It exports a nice sentence instead of a weird table of values. So I just thought it was a nice thing to do. So let's copy and paste it into our shell. They're an in. They spent 3 days in the hospital. It costs $30.75. The medication costs were $24. And it only $12 on hospital services. So you'll see that the way that I did the weird printing at the end allows me to do this as a whole complete sentence, even if they're an outpatient, so nothing gets cut off. You could just print it out in a table too. That works out nicely. So the patient owes $128.25. Wow, wish that were true. All right, thank you.